Okay, day 2 of our bumping here, and I'm upstairs in the Ghost of Alfred Felton with Eleisha Gray, one of Australia's best stylists, who, thank God, happens to also be our stylist and designer here at the Hotel Esplanade. Hey, Eleisha, let's go back to the very beginning of this whole project for you and I, and some of those early conversations we had about the Espy. Do you remember what it was that kind of grabbed you about the project?
I remember you asked me in passing, it was just like a very minor question, Leash, I was wondering if you might be interested in doing a little job for me. Of course, I'm always like, yes. And then of course, this is the beast that we've been working on for the past 2 years. It's been an absolute pleasure. What I loved about it mostly is that the Espy already had its own story. Alfred Felton had his own story here, and I could just run with it. I come from a background in TV, advertising, designing sets, backdrops for all different things, and what I loved about this project is that I'm creating a real space that real people can move around in, and it's not going to be pulled down at the end of the day.
So let's just talk quickly about the actual style, the actual design and feel we're going for here.
I remember initially sitting down with you, just going through some images, talking about how you want to bring this building back to its original feel. And that was Victorian era. I know the extension on the front of the building was an Art Deco, and that also came into play. But just that feeling of that British grandeur hotel, and you walk in and we're thinking about doing lots of big leafy palms internally.
So Leslie, do you always know what you're going to do with a piece when you buy it, the moment you see it?
So each space in the venue, I sort of have a clear vision of what it needs to be. You know, I might need to get a cabinet for there, or a waiter station for there, or some sort of kooky art piece. But as soon as I've bought it and found it, it might just skew my vision slightly, because that piece tells its own story, which then sort of trickles on and creates a different feel in that room, which is what I love. I have an idea of what I want, but then those little pieces then create their little own story. So my job really, the most important part of my job is to create that emotion in the space. So people come in and actually feel something, take it to that next level, add that extra layer to create the story, to take people on that journey of the history of the Espy, the history of Alfred Felton. They can smell, touch, feel like a different layer in these spaces. Yeah, so with this project, it was the first time I've been brought in at the very beginning to make a real influence from the initial concepts right through to the end, which is the best. So, we could speak with the interior designers and say, forget that joinery, I'm going to find something in Europe that will look much better. And I've got an assistant, Marcio, who's been great with all the logistics. Just going back to the process of sourcing all this sort of stuff. So we did have a plan. We decided that we really wanted to get something a little bit different outside of Australia initially, with all the bigger pieces that just look different, that we just can't get here. So that, of course, was the trip to Europe and getting all those bits and pieces, particularly from Lille in Belgium when you went over. All these pieces throughout the whole venue, I've been sourcing for the whole 2 years pretty much. Once we locked in all those bigger pieces, it was then on to finding all the little, all the bottles for the pharmacy, or the oil paintings for Alfred's gallery. And the list goes on and on. But mainly, like every week, I was at an auction, whether it was sometimes it was twice a week, online, on eBay, Gumtree. I could tell you that, some of this furniture is from Europe, but a lot of it's from Australia, Victoria, Dandenong, Melton, furniture from people's families that had, in their house for years and years. So it's really special.
So Leisha's like Superwoman, but like any great superhero, she has an Achilles heel. In Leisha's case, it's foam.
You're nuts.
Hates styrofoam, freaks out with styrofoam.